think we just have to put on everything because it's included. Seems so far away tonight, Tom. I mean, it's just
7 p.m. in Gardner, Kansas. I'll go ahead and call the Gardner City Council meeting to order. Can you please rise with me and recite the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So the most talkative member of our council, Lee Moore, is not here tonight, so we should be able to get through this pretty quickly, shouldn't we, Rich? All right, we don't have any presentations tonight. We'll go straight into public hearings. We do have 2 public hearings on the docket this evening, both having to do with waiver of distance limitations. So we're going to start with the first one. We're going to consider holding a public meeting for the purpose of receiving comments for a request for a waiver of the distance limitation to allow for the sale of cereal malt beverages within 200 feet of a school, church, or library during the Festival on the Trails event to be held next Saturday, June 8th, 2019. So with that being said, I'm going to ask for a motion to open the public hearing.
so moved.
Second. Motion Melton, second Baldwin, that we open the public hearing for the purpose of receiving comments on the request for a waiver of distance limitation. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Public hearing is now open. If you wish to come forward, you have a 5-minute limitation on your comments. No profanity, no personal attacks. Other than that, the floor is now open for comments. Seeing no commenters coming forward, I'd like to entertain a motion to close the meeting.
Really quickly, can I change mine to abstain? Since I'm on the board, I don't know if it matters, but.
Oh, not for a public hearing.
Okay.
Right, for any action, you can declare and abstain, absolutely.
Fair enough.
All right, no problem. Sorry about that. With no other comments coming forward, I'd like to entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion Melton, second Baldwin, that we close the public hearing. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Any abstentions? Public hearing is now closed. Public hearing number 2. Consider holding a public hearing for the purpose of receiving comments for a request for a waiver of distance limitation to allow for the sale of domestic table wine within 200 feet of a school, church, or library during the weekly Gardner Farmers Markets to be held on Thursdays, 4 to 7 p.m. from June 6, 2019 through September 12, 2019. Can I have a motion on that?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Melton, second Winters, that we open a public hearing for the purpose of receiving comments on the request for a waiver of distance limitation. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Public hearing is now open. If you wish to come forward, please state your name and address. 5-minute limitation, no profanity, no personal attacks. The floor is open.
Let's go, Tim.
Not yet.
Seeing no one coming forward, I'd like to entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Motion Gregorczyk, second Melton, that we close the public hearing. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Public hearing is now closed. Now it's time for public comments. Members of the public are welcome to use this time to make comments about city matters or items on the agenda that are not part of a public hearing. We only had 2 public hearings tonight, both of those having to do with waiver of distance limitation. If you have nothing to speak on either of those particular items, please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Adriana Mater, 32604 West 171st Court, Gardner, Kansas. Good evening. Just a couple of quick comments on item number 3 with the consolidation ordinance on the table to talk about consolidating the Planning Commission and the BZA. I understand from various listening to the meetings and, just other comments that, hey, there's not so many meetings, we might have trouble finding volunteers. Okay, that's fine and dandy, but the reason that you've got the Board of Zoning Appeals in place is another checks and balance. And in essence, if you're not having meetings, then things are running pretty smoothly. But why would you want to have the same group of individuals who might see a item and then have an appeal and they're going to see it again? That just really doesn't seem fair to the person, the applicant, who might have an issue with a recommendation. So I just wanted to make a quick comment that discuss it a little bit. Think about it. I keep hearing over and over, you want citizen involvement. And this is another opportunity for a citizen who might not be able to meet, but maybe once a year, or, very rarely. This is a great opportunity. So just think about it. That's all I have to say. So thank you for entertaining my comment.
Thanks, Adriana. Thanks, Adriana. Anyone else? Seeing nobody else coming forward, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there any member of the council who wishes to move an item from the consent agenda?
There. Number 5, please.
Okay,
3 and 4.
3 and 4. Okay, so Councilman Winters wishes to remove item number 5, and Councilman Gorsuch wishes to remove items 3 and 4. Do I have a motion on consent agenda items 1 and 2?
So moved. Second.
Motion Melton, second Baldwin, that we approve consent agenda items 1 and 2. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Consent agenda items 1 and 2 pass. Consent agenda item number 3, consider authorizing the city administrator to purchase one 2019 Ford F-250 and 4x4 crew cab truck from Olathe Ford. Councilman Gorsuch, what is your concern?
I read the packet, but I just wanted to confirm that the funds being used to purchase this vehicle were not general funds and they were coming out of the utility funds. Is that correct?
That's
Yes, sir.
correct, yes.
Thank you, Gons. And that would stand for the same question of number 4, sir.
Correct.
Thank you.
All right. And let's go ahead and take these in order. We have to do them individually. I'd like to entertain a motion on consent agenda item number 3.
So moved. Second.
Motion Melton, motion Gorsuch, second Melton, that we authorize the city administrator to purchase one 2019 Ford F-250 and 4x4 crew cab truck from Olathe Ford. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Consent agenda item number 3 passes. Consent agenda item number 4, consider authorizing the city administrator to purchase one 2019 Ford F-250 4x4 truck from Olathe Ford. I believe you had your question answered, Councilman.
Yeah, and I apologize for getting out of line there.
Oh, no, that's all right. I entertain a motion on consent
So
agenda
moved.
4.
Second.
Motion, Gorsuch, second Melton, that we authorize the city administrator to purchase one 2019 Ford F-250 4x4 truck from Olathe Ford. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Consent agenda item number 4 passes. Consent agenda item number 5, consider authorizing the approval of an agreement with Trainer Architects for professional services on the City Hall needs assessment and existing police station decommissioning. Councilman Winters.
Yeah, so I don't know, reading through this, it just seems like a lot of stuff that maybe could be done internally. I know there's a few things, especially with the police station, that would need a third party, and I understand that, but I don't know, that it just, maybe you can convince me, but this just seems like a lot of fluff.
So are we, is it the space needs study or the evaluation and the police department? It's the whole
Everything
thing.
except the 5400 for environmental conditions.
Yeah, so on the, I guess we'll start with the space needs study, and in there, that involves putting together the plan similar to what we did for the existing police station, and the number of looking through and looking, and certainly it will involve staff to a great degree, but looking at putting together plans for spaces. And like with City Hall, they'll be bringing in structural engineers, mechanical engineers, etc., to look at actually how can we reconfigure spaces appropriately for the future needs. They'll be looking at things like our deferred maintenance and our roof, looking at mechanical systems as far as should we be upgrading our control systems. And that's something that as staff we've looked at in the past, and we believe that on the mechanical systems here, just changing our controls, that we can in the long run pay that back with the energy savings. So in the space needs study itself, there's about around $24,000, which is almost pretty close to what we spent on the evaluation for PD back in 2015. In talking with Trainer, that's probably about 200 plus hours of work with at least 10 different individuals.
So are we currently having space issues? Is that
So
staff is
there's a lot of issues, and there's also the space needs study itself is also looking at many safety items that have been brought up, some of which have been looked at in the past, like the bulletproof glass for the counters and the windows, security in exterior lighting for nighttime security. And so there's those types of issues. We do have, projected increases in staff for Parks and Rec and for engineering and planning. And we have space needs issues like certain people right now who handle sensitive information, both in meetings like with HR and such, don't have office space. And oftentimes conversations are quite frankly overheard that shouldn't be. And so we're looking at some of those, and and the thought looking at the space needs is short-term, long-term, what are our options, with improving the building. So
And
I hope that
it
gets
does, but
towards
you
your
don't think we can, this is something internally? I mean, you've already kind of pointed out some of the safety issues and the deficiencies and.
And the other thing that they do is they're going to provide cost estimates. And so, this is, certainly it's something that, planning staff, engineering, et cetera, can go through, but we're not trained architects or space needs or safety consultants or mechanical professionals. So there's a lot of different disciplines other than just our own and looking at our own particular needs.
Okay. And then the remainder of the police, besides the 5,400.
Yeah, so again, it's a similar situation where they have the particular expertise in writing those specifications for the demolition of the building and taking into account, the environmental portion and making sure that that's properly abated based on the environmental studies and reports that will be done under the 5,400.
That one we just kind of have to because of environmental concern, like the asbestos disposal and all that, so. there's not
Sure,
much we can
and
do.
that's why I understood the 5,400,
Yeah.
it was just the rest of it that.
Yeah, and so really to get to your point, it's a combination of, the knowledge, the expertise, and the equipment that's required, along with just the sheer time involved and having the resources internally, which we don't have those resources.
Fair enough.
Okay. Any other questions, Tom?
No.
I hope those answered your question. Thank you.
Anybody else on the slide? Okay. With that being said, we'll move forward on a motion on consent agenda item number 5?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Melton, second Winters, that we authorize the approval of an agreement with Trainer Architects for professional services on the City Hall needs assessment and existing police station decommissioning. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, consent agenda item number 5 passes. There are no committee recommendations this evening. There is no old business, so we'll move on to new business. New business item number 1 and number 2 are on items that we've already had a public hearing on, so there will be no public comment on those items. New business item number 1, consider request for waiver of distance limitation at general retailer special event permit to allow for the sale of cereal malt beverages for consumption within 200 feet of a school, church, or library during the Festival on the Trails event to be held June 8th, 2019. Sharon. Good evening.
Hello, both new business item 1 and 2 are just housekeeping items in relation to the public hearings.
All right. Thank you very much. Todd, you said you're going to abstain from
Yes.
both,
Yeah.
from the first
Well,
vote.
just the first one. Yeah.
The first vote, okay. Only that you're a member of the Festival on the Trails Committee, so. Having said that, any discussion or questions on that item? Okay. All right, then I will entertain a motion on new business item number 1.
So moved.
Second.
Motion Melton, second Baldwin, that we approve request for waiver of distance limitation and approve a special event permit to allow for the sale of cereal malt beverages within 200 feet of a school, church, or library during the Festival on the Trails event to be held June 8, 2019. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
All right, new business item number 1 passes with 1 abstention. New business item number 2, consider request for waiver of distance limitation to allow for the sale of domestic table wine within 200 feet of a school, church, or library during the weekly Gardner Farmers Markets events to be held on Thursdays 4 to 7 p.m. from June 6, 2019 through September 12, 2019. Any discussion on new business item number 2?
Yeah, I just had a question. We have a permitting process for this now,
Yes.
and is that similar to what a liquor or beer store would get, or is it a short time festival type of permit?
Larry? Or Sharon?
This is actually permitted through the state, through the farm winery license. All they are simply asking is that they have a waiver of distance limitation so that they can sell sealed bottles of wine at the
Okay.
farmers markets.
Thank you.
There will be no open
No open
bottles.
bottles,
That-
sealed only.
That explains. Yep. Perfect. Okay, any other questions? I will entertain a motion on
So
new
moved.
business item number 2.
Second.
Motion Gregorczyk, second Melton, that we approve request for waiver of distance limitation to allow for the sale of domestic table wine within 200 feet of a school, church, or library during the weekly Gardner Farmers Markets events to be held on Thursdays 4 to 7 p.m. from June 6, 2019 through September 12, 2019. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? New business item number 2 passes. New business item number 3. Consider adopting an ordinance designating the city's planning commission as the city's board of zoning appeals and adopting revisions to the land development code to provide for such designation. Larry Powell, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The short history on this, the projects, the review of the change in the planning and zoning and the business appeals, Board of Zoning Appeals, was started back in the fall of last year. During that time frame, it was reviewed to see what had needed to be accomplished in order to create that. Staff reviewed the LDC and the bylaws, and city attorney reviewed the state laws and recommendations, and we found that this is a doable deal, and it is something that we've reviewed several times. It was taken to the planning commission, and the planning commission agreed that they would stand in favor of standing both committees' structures. Our current Board of Zoning Appeals is a 5-member board and only has 3 members on it due to the death of one member and the moving of another. and their term of office ends in July of this year. So this is not a shortening of anybody's term by any long stretch of the imagination. The creation of this will dissolve the Board of Zoning Appeals and create a new single board, which will still be both a Board of Zoning Appeals and a Planning Commission with dual membership serving on that in that capacity. And then the attached ordinance allows for the creation of that by your passing and then printing of that document in the local newspaper.
Okay, great, thank you, Larry. Any public comment on new business item number 3? I know we had someone previously speak on it. Anyone else coming forward? Seeing none, any questions for Larry regarding new business item number 3?
Just real quick, I know we've talked about it in the past, so having both the appeals and the board be the same person. Can you reiterate what we talked about when we brought that up last time? I know this is having the zoning and the planning commission being the same body.
Yeah.
Even though the same individuals might possibly be serving on both boards, the boards still continue to act in separate functions with their own meetings. And they basically would, if they had an item come for a meeting, they would start a meeting, complete that section, and that meeting would adjourn. Then they would start the next meeting. They could be set up the same way as they are now, in the fact that they would have a standard time to meet. And any time that there was not an item on an agenda, we would still notify the public that there would not be a meeting of that Board of Zoning Appeals, for example, or the Planning Commission, whichever one or both, of that evening. So the policies that we've operated under as far as the operation of the actual Board of Zoning Appeals and the Planning Commission would remain as they are, as functional, but they would be combined to try and have the same people serve on those boards in an effort to help create some, we have fewer people applying voluntarily for these opportunities. And so in an effort to keep Planning Commission at full staff and to have a full staff Board of Zoning Appeals, this was an effort on behalf to try and solve that issue.
Would you say this was done in other cities as well?
Yes, this is fairly common. There are several other cities that have that. The state statute is set up and allows for it, and it's we're not doing anything that's highly unusual in that regards.
Okay.
Could I address just one point on that? To address a comment made during public comments, the Board of Zoning Appeals and the Planning Commission have different jurisdictions and purviews, and so the Board of Zoning Appeals wouldn't ever review a decision of the Planning Commission. The Board of Zoning Appeals is set up to review variances from your zoning ordinance. The way that you've restructured your zoning ordinance, you have fewer and fewer of those because we do allow for these deviations now under our zoning changes, so long as staff is satisfied that the deviations are compensated in other manners. So I think, your Board of Zoning Appeals, and quite frankly, that's more and more common across all municipalities. They don't have strict zoning codes where people have to come forward with variances. They do have these planned districts that allow for deviations like what we've done, which has kind of lent itself to the obsolescence of the BZA. And so I think that's why state statute does allow for it. And really, there is no conflict of interest between serving on the two.
Thank you, and I just wanted that clarified. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and I appreciate that clarification, Ryan. And just for the purposes of bringing this back around, we're looking at the plan districts as we've talked about within the municipal code. The administrative variances, the possibility that there could be a problem down the road, like what we had with I think like the old Perkins one with the whole flagpole situation. That was actually an issue where we were having a problem with, or a conflict with the county regarding the airport commission. So So even in that situation, we really didn't have we did have a VZA meeting. We did talk about granting an exception, but we were also being given advice from the county airport association, or airport board, to not to go forward with that. Is that correct? I mean, I don't remember all the details of that, but I believe that was the case.
Yeah, that's a little different. I mean, that's, there's an overlay district over there for the runway approach slope with New Century, and so there are height restrictions associated with
Correct.
that, so.
Yep, absolutely. So even in that case, the VZA was limited in what it could do from that perspective. All right. Any other questions? Nope. All right. With that, I'll entertain a motion on new business item number 3.
So moved.
Second.
Motion Melton, second Winters, that we adopt ordinance 2617, right, Sharon? Okay. Designating the city's planning commission as the city's board of zoning appeals and adopting revisions to the land development code to provide such a designation. City clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilman Winters,
Yes.
Councilman Baldwin,
Yes.
Councilman Reversick,
Yes.
Councilman Melton,
Yes.
Ordinance 2617 passes. New business item number 4. Consider recommendation to authorize a contract for a solar feasibility study. Gans Garcia. Can you give us some sunlight on this?
Good evening, Mayor, Council.
Hey,
Dad jokes.
I know.
This agenda item came about for the past several years since I've been here. Several solar energy developer has approached me and asked if the city is interested in solar. We've had MC Power, Solar Systems, BPU, Black and Beach, and most recently Westar, known now as Evergy. Westar, they just installed a 1 megawatt facility at Baldwin City. So they came and showed me a lot of information, but I don't know if you have the time to review the information, but the spectrum goes from a fixed tilt to a single axis to a dual axis. Then you can talk about different solar panels, monocrystalline, polycrystalline, thin film. So the different projects that I've came in touch, they're different technologies, so you cannot compare them. So it's very hard to really come up with a number, how much would it be to put a solar facility for the city. So I was recommending doing a feasibility study to see if we can get more concrete numbers regarding the different types of solar panels, and then if we are better off with a fixed tilt or a single axis or dual axis. So doing some research, the study will be anywhere between $11,000 and $15,000. So I'm open for any discussions or questions.
All right, great. Thanks, guys. I'll open up the floor now for public comments on new business item number 4. Seeing no one coming forward, any questions for Gons on this or?
Real quick, Gons, and I guess I didn't see it if it's in there. Is there any way is this gonna cover anything on residential? Like if I wanna volunteer my roof to be part of that study and put up panels that I can somehow,
Now, if you're looking at residential and a medium, small scale, like a solar farm, they're different things.
Yeah, I understand. That's what I was wondering.
Now,
Because
we can get as part of the study, we can ask for homes.
Well, because I was wondering if it would be beneficial to have it where, and we've talked about this before.
Yes, we have.
Allowing citizens to put the panels on the roofs and getting money. Well, I know, but but get paid back for it. They do. Right? They do.
They're also net metered, yeah.
Right. Okay.
It's not net metering precise, but they get about
they get a credit.
$65.
They get a credit, right? But I don't think it was because the house that I sold last year, he wasn't getting.
It's not a 1-for-1.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
That'd be something we'd have to change with rates and how we structure that.
Yeah.
But yes, we do allow it.
Yeah, well, right, but the one-for-one thing is,
Yeah, I mean, and I was gonna share this was the industrial solar that we had talked about before GONS, which is basically having a facility owned by the city that would basically provide supplemental power and over and above our diesel capacity. That's
Yeah,
correct?
for a reference, 1 megawatt solar farm, you're talking 5 acres. So you're talking 5 megawatts, you're talking 25.
Yeah,
So it's a large scale.
it's a good
Right.
size.
so that's what I'm thinking, if we use the existing roof lines.
Well, rooftop solar is something that I would like to see more of in this community. Again, the market's gotta bear it.
Yeah, you'd have to subsidize or spur it somehow.
Yeah, well, subsidy maybe not, but definitely facilitation in some way that's not monetary. We might be able to, like, for example, have this greater incentive for than that generation of power back to the grid. Would be a big help, I think, to some people, but
All of a sudden, I'm interested in it, you know, I mean, if I can get my money back.
of course, well, that's the whole point of solar is,
But then everybody
the
who's buying it and
break-even?
investing, you know, it's not the city as a whole, it's the people who want
well,
that.
that's correct. That's why, no, it also is, yeah, I know where you're going because this is something I'm
I
in favor
know.
of, but, yeah, I mean, we can discuss industrial solar and see where that takes us from the standpoint of grid security, but I'd also like to talk about, at some point, the rooftop solar solution. That being said, it's not part of our
I understand, I
agenda
just-
tonight, but,
We can dream.
any other comments, questions?
So, I mean, in general terms, like what kind of payback period would we look at to start breaking even or saving?
That's the solar feasibility study.
Well, that's why I said in broad general, I mean, on average, is it
It's
a
really hard to predict.
10-year, 20-year?
Most of the proposals we have received are based on PPAs. And they're talking about 20 years. And you can buy the project after 7 to 9 years. But you're talking a rate of about $45 to $50 per megawatt hour.
Which is high.
Hi.
Right now, we're buying it from the grid, an average of $28 to $30.
Well, we know the renewable is gonna be higher, I mean, that's, and we also are required under state statute to have a portion of our
We do.
utilities coming
do.
from.
We have
What about-
hydro and wind now.
Yes, we do. So,
The main reason that this is of interest and not just to throw it out is because it does have a range, right? It could be down to $20 a
Could be.
megawatt hour, it could be as high as 80. But we do have a piece of our pool, of our contracts right now that will roll off
correct.
6 years, 5, 6
Yeah.
years.
That's a GRDA 2026, that's 9 megawatts.
So
Yep.
when that rolls off, we'll have to replace it with something else, which you'll have to make that decision long before 6 years.
Well, if we could
But-
self-perform that would be much.
It is something that you could replace with this as a small piece, because it's not a
Correct.
big piece of our portfolio. Whether or not it's cost feasible, I don't know at this
I
point.
guess that's what we find out
That's
with
what
the
we find out
study,
with the
right?
study.
Yep.
Yeah, and that was
Really
my
expensive
concern. We've
stuff.
already got futures out there for the next 5 or 6 years, so we know those fixed costs. And the study's gonna come back, obviously telling us that there's an investment, you know, to be had based on your ratio. But there's some other items, after making some phone calls, is that you have to have a battery backup system in order to store this unless you're directly sending it to a source that's using electricity provided by solar.
Yeah, that's part of a microgrid. So
Right.
you produce the solar energy, put it in batteries, and then you use it at the peak hours or
And that's
high
a-
demand hours. But
and-
that will be additional to this.
Correct.
That's a fairly new technology.
And so that's additional, which would be labor and more investment on the hardware side,
Yes,
i.e.
sir.
the batteries. The batteries are as big as a hood, maybe half as big as a hood, depending on what your storage capacity requirements are. So there's a lot of downhill items that you have to consider here. I think the feasibility study is not timely personally. I think we should maybe kick the can down the road a year or two. But that's just my opinion. And part of that opinion is because we've already spent and I think Dr. Todd was going to speak to this, but we've already spent, according to the note we got in 2019, $146,000 and some change on just studies. And there's just a lot of money wrapped up in studies. And I get some of it is important because we're not content experts, and I'll be the first to raise my hand that I'm not, but there's a lot of money wrapped up in studies. And I don't know if that's a right thing, wrong thing, good or bad,
Been
but
to the downtown one, right?
I've got the floor, sir.
You do.
But my point is, it's just a lot of money in studies. That's $146,000. That's not counting the $344,000 that we spent last year and the encumbrance of almost $250,000. So that's part of the reason why I would say push the solar study out maybe a year or two.
Finance Director Wolf, where are we standing right now with regard to our budget, and was this budgeted in our existing budget?
This wasn't budgeted, but it's in the electric fund. I mean, you know, your electric fund has a very large balance. It's really up to you.
I know that this came in under the city administrator's signature authority. One of the reasons why we did this was because we wanted to have this discussion. I appreciate it. Personally, I don't see the harm in getting this done. If we wait 2 years, we're 2 years closer to the deadline of having to replace that capacity, which means now we're looking at potentially a time crunch on trying to get that replaced. So that's one of the reasons why we're looking at this. We're trying to be proactive, basically, instead of being reactive.
And I agree with the proactive position, but I think that we can buy electricity generated by solar or wind to meet that criteria, if I'm not mistaken,
There
That's
are
interesting.
markets out there that will
versus
allow us to
investing
do
in
that.
a 20-acre farm.
Would this take the place of our existing power generation, or is that just additional to?
I mean, it could be a piece of the portfolio, but it wouldn't replace like our generators. Not at all. That's more of a backup anyway for the power
Right.
pool. I mean, we very rarely run them.
Right.
Right. Most of the power we get is from our portfolio. So, you know, OPPD is a big piece of that. Now Dogwood. So, you know, we lock in those long-term contracts to guarantee ourselves a good rate, and then we have to buy on the market to subsidize the fact that we have a poor load factor. So throughout the year we go up and then we come back down, right? So in the summer, it's a hot summer, everybody doesn't use their energy during the day, they come home, turn on the air conditioner, and huge spike, right? Which we then have to have by law contracts that get us up to a percentage of that at all times. So one, you can fix your load factor issue with diversifying your usage of power, so like more commercial that uses it all the time. But as far as like replacing the generators, they would have to stay because you need that for instant on to replace for the Midwest Power Pool when they tell us
I
to
just
run.
don't know if that would be the instant on, the solar itself.
Per se, the existing gas turbine units, they're probably good and for the next 10 years. And then we may have to do something about replacing them.
And if you did replace them, I'm just gonna ballpark, you're looking at 30 to 40 acres for solar. And of course, then the batteries to keep up with that kind of power. And it's not just turn it on, it's gas.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's an option, not trying to say it's not a good idea to look at, just saying everything's gotta be a piece of the puzzle. Sure.
So as our resident expert on electricity, what are your feelings on this, Mark?
Deferring to you on
When I first looked at this, I thought, man, I don't wanna spend more money on a study.
Yeah.
The more I looked at it though, and knowing how much there is volatility in trying to determine what to do with solar, the more I thought, well, if we don't have something to tell us definitively what we could do and what it would be, we're just guessing.
Yeah.
And at this time, we're not in a time crunch to do something. And we do have the ability to afford it, which it's not like we have to steal from some other
Right.
thing that we needed that year. So to me, it seems like it's worth it to do now versus a year or 10 years when it costs more for the same information.
Correct.
I think our biggest expense on this, I'll be honest with you, is buying 30 or 40 acres land in this area.
Yeah, very well could be.
I mean, I think the solar power is gonna be cheap compared to the cost of land. And that's not getting any cheaper,
That's true.
so.
I mean, it's very possible that we do the study and we find out that we spent this money to be told that this doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Right?
And we
but
have
we
to
don't
have
know that for sure.
our solar system in our, I guess, around us, right? We can't put it, 30 miles down the road because it'd be giant cables that have to bring it here.
That will defeat the purpose of a
Right.
solar.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah, because we're having to do that now.
Right,
Okay,
yeah. So I
yeah.
mean, that's what I'm thinking, is where the land's cheap. and,
Exactly.
But I have no problem with the study because I think it's gonna tell us what we need to know, or what we already perceive.
What's the
as-
range of feasibility? Because
Yeah,
we
right.
don't really have a clue. We're just guessing at this point. We have a thought of an idea of what it would be, but I think we'd probably,
I'm very glad that it's 10 to 15,000 and not a 75,000 or $100,000 study.
I agree.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Gons. So,
appreciate that. Okay, any other discussion? I'll entertain a motion on new business item number 4.
so moved.
Second.
Motion Melton, second Baldwin, that we authorize the city administrator to execute a contract for a solar feasibility study. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Any abstentions? All right, I believe that's a 4-1 or 3-1 vote. The motion passes. All right, council updates.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thanks,
Gons,
Gons.
appreciate it. Council updates, does anybody have any, staff member have anything for council? We'll start with city attorney, Ryan Dank.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm gonna start, yeah, we're in the hot seat, Ryan.
Yeah, nothing from me.
Nothing.
Darn it, man.
All right, finance director Wolf. City clerk? Interim city clerk, I'm sorry. Nah. Captain Belcher, interim police, and see, all the interim stuff is bothering me. Okay, interim police chief Belcher, nothing, okay. Gons Garcia.
Yeah, I have a question for the council.
Yes,
As we approach the summer, our water demand is gonna start to go up. Do you like to see the trend on a weekly basis so you are aware what's going on the Friday Minute Memo?
that would be a really good idea. I would love to see those numbers, Gons. We could just throw it on the minute memo, just like we do with with some of the other measurements that we get.
Okay, will do.
Oh, also, Gons, while you're on that, have we figured out a way to meter what's going on out here at the mass filling station? Because I think last year we were just kind of wondering how much.
Bulk water.
Right, the bulk water.
Well, we have a meter.
Do we? Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, fantastic, thank you.
Right. Parks and Rec, Jason Bruce.
Quick
You must gotta be
update.
sick of this rain, by the way.
Yeah, that's one of the items I was going to discuss tonight, just in
Yeah.
case anyone gets any calls on our rotation for mowing. We have a 7-day, a 14-day, and then a 30-day brush hog. Those brush hog areas are getting pretty tall, and it's really, really wet. So we don't want to get contractors' equipment or our equipment stuck in there. So we will get to it if we get a break. So this week is not looking very promising, but we're working hard to try to keep everything cut down. So pool update since Friday. Mother Nature struck again over the weekend. We were doing our caulking areas and our seams and joints, and got through Saturday, almost finished, and then the hailstorm rolled in. And so we turned around Sunday morning, got back out there, finished it up Sunday. Contractor said he'd like to let it sit till end of tonight. We will start filling tomorrow. 2 days for fill, 2 to 3 days to balance, depending upon the weather. And we hope to open the new side on Saturday,
Great,
weather permitting. So that's what we're shooting for.
great. That's good news. Thanks a lot, Jason. Appreciate your all's effort out there too. I know it's been a real test, so thank you. Larry Powell, good evening.
Nothing tonight, sir, thank you.
Yes. Mr. Kramer.
Yeah, I just wanted to draw your attention back to the Friday Minute Memo and hope that you all notice that the Public Works street crews are assisting in Leavenworth County Last week, they were called in after the storms through the mutual aid agreement, emergency management, and we responded. We've had 2 crew members up there since Wednesday. They took equipment with them and chainsaws, and last week they were helping clear roadways, and this week they were helping do some private driveways and such, with helping out Leavenworth County Public Works. And so I think it's a real good learning experience for our crews and staff to do that and to be able to provide that assistance to them as well.
Well, that's great to hear, and I know we had a whole lot of private individuals from Gardner, different organizations, and also I believe our fire department sent a team up there as well to help with some of the cleanup. It's tough when you have a circumstance like that, and I know it's like just overwhelming, especially in a town like Linwood or Baser that has that kind of destruction. It's good to see that we have folks coming in from the city to help out with that, so thank you. And please pass my thanks along to your staff as well for their work on that. City Administrator, anything on your plate?
Sure. If you recall, in March of last year, we changed the master resolution that created the citizen advisory committees. Since that time, since we changed the way that appointments are made, nominations are made, we've had a number of vacancies across the board. Amy sent out a number of emails reminding council members to put in their nominations, to seek out applications. We have a number of vacancies still. Sharon's been working with Amy over the phone. We've located all the applications that currently exist. The mayor is going to get together the interview committee, but we need to get those vacancies filled. The airport advisory committee, in particular, has only got 1 member that is appointed. There's 2 members that have stayed over that would like to stay, but we also have 3 new applicants for that committee. So we have a number of interviews to do to fill that committee. If we can't get enough interested parties from the council members that are assigned to fill those positions, we're going to come back and ask for a new process for nominating people, because we're at a point now where we rarely have a quorum if we're absent members. So you can look for that. I'm going to be sending out emails reminding individual council members of the appointments that they're asked to fill. In the new resolution, there is no secondary option. If we don't get a name from the council member that is assigned to fill that position, there's no other option to fill it. So we need to address that in short order. So I'll be sending out those emails this week.
Yeah, this is kind of a bugaboo of mine. It's, as the council asked to have that power to make those nominations. Okay, that happened a little over a year ago. That power has got to be exercised. If we don't use it, then we're basically, creating a process. I'll be honest with you, it doesn't work. It's not working right now. So we've got to make it work. Okay.
Well, to be honest, I think we're already at whatever the next step is, because I've seen numerous, requests up here or through social media or in person for the public to step up, and I don't know if it's just because I'm not going to say Todd didn't put anybody forward. I don't think anybody approached Todd or Rich or myself.
Well, that's why again what we're talking.
We're
about.
going to have to solicit in a better way.
Well, that's the whole point. We need to solicit.
One of the options that was discussed last year in March was for every council member to have the opportunity to turn in a nomination, and then the mayor pick, and then come back to the council to vote. That may be the best way to go, since we're struggling to get applicants.
Yeah,
and if I can get a consensus for that, I can bring that back to the council at the next meeting.
Why don't we just jump on and try it? Sure. Because if I have somebody who's dead set on they don't like that one thing, that's where I run into a problem. Like ADA, for a long time I had a problem because I couldn't find a person for ADA, and that was my only one. I finally found that person, but there might be 5 other people that I go, well, they're really interested in something else that I don't have. So now I can say, hey, here's a person for that.
Well, as long as the applicant pool, again, you may be running into somebody you might want to serve on, for example, the airport committee, all right? But it's not your turn for airport, but at least if we get that person in the candidate pool, Now, whoever does have that term for airport, they can select their person from that
Understand.
pool. They could select yours, they could select somebody else's, but right now, what I'm getting the sense of here is that if it's not my committee, then, you know, I'm not gonna take care of it.
No, that's
No,
not
I
what I
don't-
said.
But I mean,
That's
but
not
what,
I
but
said
what,
at
no,
all.
but I'm saying that's what it looks like it's being borne out just through the process, so we're not seeing enough people coming
No,
forward.
because what happens is, this is the way it happens. I go on my social media page and I go, I have this appointment position for ADA. Nobody replies back. They don't reply back, hey, I want to do something else. They reply back, nothing. They just don't even say anything because all I know is that we need ADA. That's what I tell them. They don't want to do that. They want to do Parks and Rec, but they don't come to me and say, hey, no, I want to do Parks and Rec instead. So that's the limitation, is they're not even reaching out anymore to say, no, I want to do something different.
So right now, we've got a critical situation on 2 committees. We have a critical situation on airport, and we have a critical situation on utilities.
Yep.
Both of those need to be filled, all right? I would almost say for the committees that we have ex officio members on, like for example, I believe you're ex officio on utilities.
Not officially. There is no ex officio for utilities.
Oh,
But yes,
you have a heart
I stay
for it.
plugged in enough that
You're
you can call me
very,
that.
yeah, okay. Well, there is no ex officio period for utilities right now? All right, you're ex officio for utilities.
I thought you only got
See what
appointed to
happens
stuff
when
if
you
you
open your
weren't
mouth?
here.
But, you know, I think that they're the ones that have the vested interest in making sure those particular committees are filled. I think that it would be a really good idea for them to find 1 or 2 people through their sphere of influence who might be willing to apply for those positions. And let's just get this done. I mean, all of us should be looking for all these committees, but we should at least be able to take care of the ones that we know we're, you know, and I'm just talking about finding applicants, not actually choosing someone to bring
The
forward.
problem is, we don't know about them if they only send us a thing saying, you need to fill this one for Parks and Rec or ADA or whatever. We don't know about the whole.
Do we have a list of the positions that are open in each committee? We did send that out about 3 months ago, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. Why don't we do that again?
Yeah,
So now everybody will know exactly what positions are available.
great.
Need to be
That
filled.
solves a big chunk of the problem. Because if
Okay.
I'm gonna go over, I need to know what we're going for.
Yes.
And we also have a list of applicants currently for any position.
All right.
That'd be great.
Could we also get that as well? So the open positions and the number of applicants that we have for each position. That would be great. All right. That'll
Do we
help.
wanna have city administrator start drafting up the change on that?
If you guys are all right with it, that was my original proposal initially, was that you guys could bring forth your recommendations and I just choose one.
Well, we've always been able to.
Yeah,
Right? Even if I'm the one picking for streets and sidewalks, it's not like Randy couldn't say, hey, I know so-and-so, they'd like to be on that committee.
Absolutely.
It's already doable. It's just if you're not specifically looking for it.
That's right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, well, that'll help, and let's get that out. But we need to get this problem fixed, guys. Yes?
The one's gonna be drafting it, are we gonna have a window when the timeframe when people are gonna bring, when they're gonna bring forward appointees for a specific position?
Well, right now, our situation is that, and I believe this is also codified within the ordinance. It's not, when we get a person who applies, that applicant stays in until they say they don't wanna do it anymore, or their qualifications change, they stay on file, so, you know, as long as we know that they're out there and they're willing to serve, you know, I don't think that there should be a window.
If we wanted to do anything to improve, and to your point about letting them know, what if you open up the process to say, I want to apply and I will be a member of any of these committees? Because we asked that question at the end, would you serve on something else? But you go in applying for one or the other now.
We can give them that option.
Yeah, let's make it where they can get into the pool for just about anything,
right.
and if they're willing to do 2 things, 5 things, then it gives us the wiggle room to hopefully put people in places.
Yep.
I like it. Way to go, Mark. Should've talked earlier. Wasted all this time.
All right, Rich. Okay, any other questions? All right, does council have anything for staff? I'm gonna start with, top winners, because I never start with top winners.
Hey, well, there we go. I don't have anything, no. Just a reminder about the Festival on the Trails, for everyone listening at home, this Saturday. And Sawyer Brown will be our main act, free concert. We'll have activities all day. There'll be, kids' activities, starting, I think, actually, Tori, what time do the kids' events begin?
11 to 5.
11 to 5.
And balloon, whatever artists and face painters and inflatables and all sorts of fun.
Helium.
A DJ and games.
Be a good time. We'll have a car show as well.
Awesome. And the first ever Gardner Cornhole Tournament
Absolutely.
is coming
Yes.
to Festival on the Trails.
It's a good time, totally free, so come on out.
Cornhole, yeah. See, Ryan knows cornhole. I'll bet he.
Are you
he
coming
could
in,
probably
Ryan?
toss.
Are you? Yeah.
The best one.
Sometimes I've even watched the pro cornhole on ESPN.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh my
There-
gosh.
And there is,
Time
there is
TMI,
still
buddy.
room for a few more teams, so.
Excellent. I think I'll team up with Ryan and we'll scout
Right.
everybody. All right. Well, thanks.
You bet.
Anything else?
That's it. Nope, that's it.
All right, great. Mark Baldwin.
I don't have anything.
Nothing. Randy Grigorczyk.
Jason, thanks for commenting about the city right-of-way grass mowing. I had a couple of folks holler at me about that.
They do
and-
holler too.
Yeah, I guess communicate would have been a better word, sir. And speaking of the citizens, if you're at Wildcat and Moonlight, this is for Mr. Kramer, making a right-hand turn, which would be northbound. That's just looking, according to the citizens, and I drove over there on the way to this meeting. There's no curbing there where the residential road comes in contact with Moonlight on the right-hand side. If you turn right, headed northbound on Moonlight.
That's correct. Open ditch right there, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's just getting really rutted out. I didn't know if the street master plan had any curbing for that or what have you. I can take a picture and email it to you if you'd like.
I can look into that. I know that at some point in the future, Moonlight as a whole gets improved going
Sure.
south.
Yeah, this would be more
And
of a short
certainly
run.
at that time, but I don't know that in the short term there's anything, but we can look into it.
Okay, and that's all I had, sir.
Okay, great. Rich Melvin.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know.
I'm-
I was debating giving you the mic.
I'm shocked that you
Yeah.
remember my name. So,
Exactly.
so anyway, I just wanted to say thank you to staff. I know we've talked about the crosswalk over there on 183rd, and I had, after we had the engineers out there looking at everything this week, I mean, I had a flurry of calls. They're out here looking, it's amazing. And so I know that was probably already in the works, but I told them, I'm glad you guys saw them out there, so they're excited and they know that things are happening. So I just wanted to say thank you to you guys for doing that. And then I guess that's really it, so.
Okay, great. Only thing I had was a reminder to folks to go out to Festival on the Trails. It's sometimes a kind of lost in the early summer hustle and bustle, but it's a Gardner tradition. And I'm not just saying that because we have a council member on the committee. I'm saying it because it's definitely part of the civic life of our community. And go out there, take a look at it, and spend some time with the events and all the other stuff that goes on with that. You were waving. Yes.
Just wanted to remind you about the citywide cleanup.
And oh yes, the citywide cleanup is this Saturday. Yes. So this Saturday, citywide cleanup on the south side. So if you're south of Maine and you have junk, we will pick it up. And actually, even if you're not a Gardner Disposal customer, they will pick up your junk. And I think last year, what did we have last year in terms of? We had
a few.
Yeah, we had a whole lot of junk that was picked up. And this is your chance every year to be able to get that taken care of free of charge. And if you've ever seen a dump truck, a garbage truck eat a widescreen television, it's fun. It's fun. So you'll wanna take a look at that. they will take huge items. I think the biggest item I've ever seen is like a desk, a full-size desk that they've tossed in there, and it's like crush. It's like a hydraulic press. So think about that. Anyway, this Saturday is the first one, and the following Saturday was the north side of Main Street. That'd be the 15th of June. So thank you for reminding me, Danica.
Yeah, thanks, Danica.
Yeah.
I'm glad Lee's not here to ramble on.
I know. All right. With that being said, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion Melton, second Baldwin, that we adjourn. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? We are adjourned.
Man, look at what time it is.
Yeah, it's 8
This is
o'clock.
almost like a Lee Moore session.
We have work for the 2 public hearings and yes, let's do that. Sure. Public hearings.
I know, right? Blasted through.
Yeah, I was hoping you were saying, wait on that. So we're saying, I gotta run the rest of them. And then I'm like, it's gonna come back. If it was maybe.
I gotta run the rest of them.